Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's another episode of Wind Waker Unflooded. Aren't y'all excited? It's always good to see y'all. And I mean that, and like discussing this channel and the state of it. But before I do the introduction, y'all, I always have to say I always enjoy being able to engage with the community here. If you haven't heard it before, I know that we're doing this creative project. I know we're making Wind Waker Unflooded. I know that this is bringing to life the kingdom of Hyrule in the art style of The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker and its world. I know that's what we're doing. I know it's a 3D modeling project. But really what we're doing here is we're creating our own pocket of the Legend of Zelda fan community. And thank you all for joining me and being a part of that community. Every time that y'all comment, it's always meaningful, and I always appreciate seeing what y'all have to say about Zelda, hearing from y'all, and engaging with y'all, of course, in your ideas for this project, of course, as well. So, as always, let me get everything just out of the way right off the bat. I always enjoy hearing from y'all. So comment down below any ideas that you have for the project, anything that you want to see. Leaving a comment is a great way to make sure that I know what you want to see be a part of this project. So let me just get that all out of the way, is that your feedback matters, positive and negative feedback. Anything you like, anything you don't like, let me know. And that matters. But without further ado, we're getting into just a little more work on Zora's domain. I'm getting back into this because one of your comments suggested that I work a little bit more on Zora's domain, and where Jabu Jabu would be his shrine, and there's still a lot of work left to do on that area, but just kind of getting some work done on especially modeling the mountain around Zora's domain. That's kind of what I'm working on in this video, is figuring out the paths and the river and how it descends from the mountain, and how you would ascend the mountain if you were to walk up it, and trying to figure out those paths. And that's really what we're working on here. And I tell you, like, it's a lot of progress, and I don't know, maybe it doesn't look like much by the time we finish the video. But I mean, this was a mountain that, just like, to be clear, I didn't have a strong vision for it. I wasn't really sure what the shape of Zora's domain would be, but I knew that I wanted it to feel naturalistic, or like this feeling that that there had been water trickling down the mountainside, and that it had smoothed over these pathways, and so I wanted it to feel smooth in that sense, right? Like there had been years of running water along the mountainside. So that was kind of guiding me. But other than that kind of just like, other than, wanting to have these trickling rivers and trickling pathways, I wasn't really sure what the exact shape of it would be. So this video is just kind of all about just kind of experimenting there and exploring, just like, all right, what is that going to be? But I also think it was helpful to approach it that way, because I didn't have an exact shape in mind. I didn't have to conform to that vision. With that spirit of trickling water, I could just kind of, almost as a sculptor in that sense, just kind of let the paths create themselves, let them kind of trickle down the mountain, and have that inform the creative decisions for the actual geometry. But I think I can talk more about that after this short break. I think it's time for a short message. So I'll talk to all of you again after the break. See you then.
If you want to be able to support me as a creator, there's several ways that you can do that. Become a member on Patreon. It gives you access to exclusive bonus features and early access content in all of my filmmaking projects. Stuff like early access to scripts that I'm writing, storyboards, previs, rough cuts, and music that I compose. I'm a composer, and any music that you've heard in the background of this video was my music. So go to Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to music and type in Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Look up Joe Kendrick on Spotify.
And we're back. As always, I just have to let you know how you can support me as a creator. I don't make any ad revenue from this channel. If you saw an ad on the videos, because YouTube is putting ads on the video, I don't monetize Wind Waker Unflooded. It is completely not monetized for me. So any way that you want to be able to support me as a creator is incredibly meaningful. Thank you to everyone who has supported me. That makes a huge difference. I was talking about my relationship with planning, with pre-production, Because that's something where, just to be frank with y'all, usually I don't, like sometimes I have concept art, and I've been very lucky to have some concept artists contribute to the project. And that is always helpful because it's something that I usually don't do. Sometimes I'll draw something up, something quickly, and usually like I have something in my head, right? And I'm able to work with that. But it's also like, I don't know, I do a lot of just kind of like whittling away without necessarily a very tight plan, It's something that isn't necessarily set in stone. I'm just kind of like, I just want to kind of work on this a little bit and kind of see where it goes. I don't necessarily have something in mind, but I'm just going to kind of work on it and kind of let something emerge on its own just through, throwing time at it and just seeing where things go. And sometimes that means that I have to kind of backtrack a little bit here and there, but usually it does that. Usually it just kind of means that I'll just kind of work away at it and kind of see where it blossoms from there. And I think that that's been helpful. I mean, sometimes it's dangerous to go about, creative projects that way. Sometimes you really do need a plan. And even for this project, there are times where I really have needed a plan, and it's been to my detriment to not plan enough. But I also think that sometimes there is a benefit creatively to allowing yourself to just like say, you know what, I'm not going to worry about being too hard on trying to do things a certain way. I'm going to create in a way that inspires me. So every step of the way, every vertice is just like, I think this is the shape I want, and everything's just being informed by, instead of like asking yourself, am I sticking to the plan? Your end product is being informed by a constant question of, oh, do I like this? Yeah, I like this. I'm going to keep going in this direction, which sometimes can help you get a better product. I mean, I think about this all the time. If y'all don't know, of course, I have a background in indie filmmaking. And there's, times where I've worked with collaborators or done things with my own projects where sometimes it's finding that out. That sometimes I've worked with people that can get themselves in a corner if they're too dedicated to sticking to script, right? They're like, I have a plan, I need to follow it. Instead of asking yourself, like, for instance, if you're, filming a dialogue scene, sometimes the way to get the best result is not to stick to the script, but it's to then pay attention to your actors, hear them deliver the lines, and then ask yourself every time, do I like the lines that they're delivering? Maybe I don't need to stick to the script. What am I hearing now? I know I wrote it a certain way. I know I had something in my head when I wrote it, but now that I'm actually hearing it, now that I'm seeing it, I need to reevaluate the plan because it may not work anymore. And sometimes it's tough to ask that question. And there's times when you just can't worry about that. There's times when like too much has to, you have too many puzzle pieces that just have to fit together. You need a plan and you need to be able to stick to it. But there's also times when I think it can really help your project to just be willing to ask yourself every step of the way, am I willing to reevaluate my plan? What do I really want to, what do I really want to create here? And having your project be informed by your inspiration and what you think works than some arbitrary, like, am I sticking to the plan? And that, it depends. And there's a lot of caveats there, of course. But like, just like thinking as a creative, this is something that it's like figuring out that balance and like, when do you worry about the plan? And when can you say, you know what, we have time. I'm just going to follow inspiration and reevaluate the plan. I think it's helpful to be open to that. And to be open to both. Because like I said, there are times where especially if you have to coordinate a lot of different things, you need to just have a plan. For sure. So these are all things that I've thought about as a modeler on this project, and I've never really done a 3D modeling project of this scale. And I think I would have gotten into trouble if I planned too much at the beginning, if I spent too much time saying, oh yeah, let me draw up these pictures, kind of see where things go, have a really clear vision. And maybe I could have figured out a lot, and maybe that would have helped with some things, but it would have also gotten me to a point where maybe I started modeling and I said, oh, this doesn't work the way I thought it would in the plan. Now suddenly this entire mountain it can't be that shape just because it looked one way on paper, but looks a different way when it's actually 3D. Those things can happen, and they happen all the time. And so I think it's a good thing that I didn't plan too much at the beginning. I had the map that Jacob Zechariah had created, and I went from there pretty much. And I had strong convictions in my head about what I wanted to see in the map, creatively, thoughts about the Wind Waker and what I wanted to see from certain locations, and, a perspective that I have, and that continues to guide me. It's just, it still requires that point of view. But that doesn't mean that I planned it out incredibly heavily. And I think that that's okay. And I think that that's been working for this project, but it may not work forever. And there's definitely locations I may need to sit down and go, okay, if I really want to finish this project, I have to decide what I want to do and be very specific. I may realize that with certain locations. But until then, we're finishing up this video. So everyone, thank you all so much for watching. I always appreciate y'all being here. Comment down below any ideas you have, as always. But for now, without further ado, I'll let you go.